Like every other person in the world, I had my own ideas about religious freedom. So to make sure I did not misrepresent the general understanding, I consulted that great oracle of the 21st century, Wikipedia. Freedom of religion or freedom of belief is a principle that supports the freedom of an individual or community, in public or private, to manifest religion or belief in teaching, practice, worship, and observance. Though that was from Wiki, it was in fact directly from the UN's Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Article 18 states, "Everyone has the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion." This right includes freedom to change his religion or belief, and freedom, either alone or in community with others and in public or private, to manifest his religion or belief in teaching, practice, worship, and observance. Look how similar that is to what we've already been hearing from this morning's readings of Thomas Jefferson's role in 1779 with the Virginia Statute for Religious Freedom. "No man shall be compelled to frequent or support any religious worship, place, or ministry whatsoever, nor shall be enforced, restrained, molested, or burdened in his body or goods, nor shall otherwise suffer on account of his religious opinions or beliefs, but that all men," and women, of course, was the intention, "shall be free to profess and by argument to maintain their opinions in matters of religion, and that the same shall in no wise diminish, enlarge, or affect their civil capacities." In other words, you cannot be prevented even from becoming president of the United States by virtue of being a Jew or an atheist or even a Catholic. But in America, until 1960 and President Kennedy's run, that wasn't the case. In his own Presidential Library's manifest, it says, "Only one Catholic, Governor Alfred E. Smith of New York, had ever been the nominee of one of the major parties. His 1928 campaign was derailed by claims," you have to pay close attention to this part, "that he would build a tunnel connecting the White House and the Vatican." Are there any engineers here today? Because we need some help with that one. "And would amend the Constitution to make Catholicism the nation's established religion." He was overwhelmingly defeated nationwide in 1928. Thank God JFK wasn't overwhelmingly defeated in 1960 in his runs, because that was one step forward for our united nation. Let me now speak out on behalf of all of us in this one nation under God, with no comma. Less than a century later, we have a similar alarming trend. According to a poll by the Associated Press last month, about 8 in 10 Americans said protecting the religious freedom of Christians is important. In the same poll, about 6 in 10 said the same about Muslims. The Jews fell right in the middle, getting 7 in 10 votes for defending their religious freedom. Eric Rosbaugh, a religious liberty attorney, said, "People may not realize you cannot have a system where there's one rule for one group and another rule for a different group you don't like. No religion is an island. If somebody else's religion is being limited by government, yours is liable to be limited in the same way. Even if you only care about your own particular group, you should care about other groups, because that's the way the law works." And this is my main point on this issue. We have a system of law in the country. It's designed to protect religious freedoms, and it's designed to protect every citizen under the law against assault, against other violations of one's rights, against other crimes that can be committed against us. An example is Mormons in Utah who wanted to insist upon bigamy as an old carry-on from their faith. It was illegal by the law of the land, and therefore some Mormons who demanded that right have been imprisoned for it. It's a simple fact that laws will override pressures from subsets of America. If any faith demands its way in opposition to the law of the land, it'll be handled accordingly. We need to trust ourselves a little more and let the system work, rather than terrifying one another with dire threats about competing systems taking over. We're better than that, although you wouldn't know it from the hysteria on social media today. In my own book, Powerful Peace, I unpacked this situation in what I hope are helpful terms. This is in regards to the mosque war, the Ground Zero mosque in 2010. The mosque war caused some unacceptable and ironic casualties against deeply held American values called freedom of religion and respect for diversity. My two-part response to the question that the Muslims are waging a stealth jihad against America is, A, yes, there is a stealth jihad. Think about it. Any group sophisticated enough to carry out the complex attacks of 9/11 is smart enough to come at the problem from multiple fronts. They told us who they are, Al-Qaeda, and Al-Qaeda says it speaks for all Muslims. Remember that Hitler said he spoke for all good Germans. Remember, too, that through the skillful manipulation of grievances and fears, he whipped up a fever pitch against another cultural religious group. That he accomplished this through impassioned nationalism, and that the German language root for nationalism led to the term Nazi. Answer part B, no. It is not the Muslims who are after us, any more than cop killer Eric Rudolph and his Christian supporters could be interpreted as proof that the Christians are out to murder abortion doctors. There are unsettling similarities between today's warnings to watch out for them, they're Muslims, and the Führer's earlier hysteria-laced speeches warning about the menace of them, they're Jews. This appeal is not intended to raise Islam above Christianity or vice versa. I'm merely asking that we pause in our daily drama to consider where each of our fellow humans is really coming from. I do believe in God, and I do believe God made us all. I'm also pretty sure that each of us is flawed and sees only a small part of the whole picture. None of us is big enough, brothers and sisters, to declare that we individually hold all of God's truth. I suspect God finds our presumption either very amusing or very irksome. I have a shocking admission. I haven't always been a Christian. Before joining the Navy and circling the world across 36 countries for 3 decades, I was raised a Protestant in a tiny village of 1,000 people in upstate New York. Needless to say, everybody knew everybody, and everybody knew everybody else's business. I was told God loved honesty and right behavior, but every Sunday I saw adults sharing coffee and cookies with individuals we knew had been doing some pretty bad things. I left at 15 because I saw the hypocrisy of hanging out with people who are doing wrong things and not talking about it. I tried to be an atheist. That lasted about a week. I wandered among other traditions like Buddhism and even paganism for about 20 years, finally being compelled by my rereading of the Bible to return to my roots, with a wizened and skeptical eye for what people tell me about God. Gandhi, who arguably lived a more Christ-like life than many professing Christians, said, "True religion is not a narrow dogma. It is not external observance. It is faith in God and living in the presence of God." Officially, in the First Amendment of the National Constitution, part of the United States Bill of Rights supports this individual nature. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Think about this. Every one of you here today has an inalienable right to start your own religion, if you're so inclined. I thought about establishing Robbism, but my Christian beliefs wouldn't let that go very far. The point is, you and I are mightily blessed to be here in this land where freedom to worship is not only a right, it is a responsibility to ensure for others. We have a privilege unknown to many around the world, and I've seen them. I've seen countries where only one religion was authorized. We have a privilege that they don't enjoy. This comes with an obligation. I'll leave you with the wise words of Thomas Jefferson found on this plaque that sits on my desk, when permitting. There is a debt of service due from every man to his country, proportioned to the bounties which nature and fortune have measured to him.